The world is moving away from a single American-led system. For the first time in decades, the global economy is no longer operating under one dominant center, and this shift is starting to show up in the daily lives of American consumers. Prices are becoming more unpredictable. Delivery timelines that once felt stable now change without warning. Supply flows that used to move smoothly are slowing down or shifting direction. Researchers point to a broad reorganization of global production as companies search for safer and more flexible supply chains. Trade routes are adjusting, and the cost of moving goods continues to rise. These pressures are filtering directly into retail prices and everyday transactions. Many Americans already notice this when they shop online. A product can show one price at the start of the week, rise a few days later, and drop again before the weekend. A delivery estimate that once showed 3 days can suddenly move to 7. Even simple items like phone chargers or basic car parts can appear in stock one moment and disappear the next. These small disruptions reflect a much larger reality. The global system is no longer held together by one steady center, and the transition to something new is accelerating. The important question is why this shift is happening now and what forces are driving it forward. For decades, the global economy followed a set of rules built on one assumption: that a single American-led center would keep trade open, stabilize prices, and absorb shocks when they appeared. Those rules worked in a world where production was concentrated, supply lines were predictable, and global integration kept costs low. That world is fading. Globalization is slowing as countries look inward and rebuild domestic capacity. The cost of moving goods is rising as firms add backup suppliers and new routes to protect themselves from disruptions. Competition for resources and technology is intensifying, and these pressures weaken the old structure that once kept prices stable. The results now show up in everyday shopping. A grocery store may change price labels several times a month because wholesale costs move faster than before. A manufacturer may reduce output for a week because a shipment of metals or chemicals did not arrive on time. These are not isolated events. They are signs that the old rules that kept supply and prices steady no longer work in a more fragmented global economy. This breakdown of the former system raises a deeper question about what comes next, because behind these failing rules lies an even larger change in how the world views America's role. For decades, America acted as the main stabilizer, carrying the cost of keeping trade open and maintaining the flow of goods across regions. That role is no longer taken for granted. Inside the United States, there is growing fatigue over the expense of supporting overseas stability, and this sentiment is changing how the country engages with the world. As America steps back from doing all the heavy lifting, other regions are moving to reduce their dependence on a single center. Parts of Asia are building new trade networks, Europe is strengthening its own industrial base, and emerging markets are linking more closely with one another. The result is a global system with multiple poles rather than one dominant anchor. This transition affects American consumers more directly than many expect. When the dollar swings sharply, the price of imported goods can climb within days. When global production costs rise, those increases reach American store shelves faster than before because there is no longer a single system smoothing the fluctuations. Companies feel the impact as well. A firm that once relied on predictable international conditions now faces higher currency risk, more volatile input costs, and less certainty about where to place its next investment. These pressures shape product prices, hiring decisions, and long-term planning. The world is adjusting to a landscape where America is still influential, but no longer the sole stabilizing force. At the center of this adjustment sits one relationship that drives much of the economic uncertainty: the growing competition between the United States and China. This growing competition between the United States and China now shapes the everyday cost of living in ways that are hard to ignore. As both countries expand their capabilities in technology, resources, and manufacturing strength, their rivalry pushes pressure into global supply chains, and that pressure eventually reaches American consumers. Technology has become one of the most competitive arenas. As nations race to secure advanced chips, batteries, and specialized equipment, the cost of producing these items rises. When suppliers struggle to meet demand, prices move quickly, and the volatility shows up in the products Americans buy most. This is why many households have seen the price of GPUs climb or fluctuate with little warning. It is why certain electronics that were once easy to purchase may be out of stock one week and overpriced the next. Even key materials used in cars and batteries have become more expensive because competition for these resources is intense and production remains concentrated in a limited number of regions. Basic daily items are not immune to this trend. Something as simple as a household tool or small appliance can arrive late because its components were delayed somewhere along a longer and more complex supply chain. A store that normally has steady inventory may suddenly face empty shelves for a product that used to be reliably stocked. These patterns show how global competition reshapes price stability in the United States. As countries compete for the same technologies and materials, the cost of keeping supply flowing becomes higher, and American consumers end up absorbing much of that burden. Yet supply chains are only part of the story, because the strategies of American companies are also undergoing a rapid transformation. As global competition intensifies, more firms are rethinking where they produce and how they manage risk, and the old approach of concentrating production in one dominant region no longer fits the new environment. For years, many companies relied heavily on low-cost manufacturing hubs because the logistics were simple and the flow of goods was predictable. That stability has weakened. To avoid disruptions, more firms are diversifying their production across multiple countries, and each location now operates as an independent site that handles its own manufacturing and checks. This wider distribution makes the supply chain safer, but it also raises the cost of managing separate operations in different regions. As production spreads across several locations, companies must adjust how they work, keeping individual inventories for each site, securing extra capacity to prevent delays, and running more flexible schedules to handle regional differences. These adjustments increase operating costs, and over time, many firms pass a portion of those costs into the final price paid by consumers. Inside the United States, reshoring has also changed how factories operate. To offset higher labor and facility costs, companies are rapidly installing automated equipment. Robotic systems and AI-driven inspection tools now perform tasks that once required larger teams, and this investment helps maintain consistent output even as expenses rise. But the heavy upfront spending often appears later in the final price consumers pay. Logistics continue to add pressure. When transportation fees increase, or when materials must travel through more complex routes, companies adjust retail prices to keep margins stable. Even everyday items can reflect these shifts because small cost changes accumulate across each layer of the supply chain. Together, these decisions show how the rebuilding of supply chains is redefining the cost structure of the American economy. And this entire shift leads directly to the part of the economy households feel most sharply: the rising cost of daily living. For many Americans, it is becoming clear that this is not a temporary spike, but a structural change shaped by the new global environment. Prices no longer fall as easily as they once did because the forces pushing them upward are coming from many directions at the same time. Supply chain risks continue to add pressure since companies must carry more backup inventory and maintain wider networks to avoid delays. Trade-related costs have risen as countries adjust their policies and compete for resources, and these expenses flow into the price of imported goods. Higher wages and operating costs inside the United States add another layer, while global competition for advanced technologies keeps the cost of essential components elevated. All of these factors combine into a system where downward movement in prices becomes far less common. Households feel this shift in the most familiar places. Restaurant meals cost more than they did a few years ago and rarely come back down. Grocery prices hold their position even when promotions appear, and essential items like rent and insurance tend to rise steadily with little relief. Many Americans now describe the same experience. Their monthly expenses do not fall the way they used to, and any small increase feels permanent rather than temporary. These patterns explain why this era feels more expensive for so many people. The economic structure itself has changed, and the pressure is now built into the system rather than driven by short-term shocks. And this raises the next critical question: whether the United States is losing its competitive edge in a world where the rules are being rewritten. The answer becomes clearer when looking at the parts of the economy where America still holds unmatched strength. The post-American era is not a story of decline, but a shift toward a more competitive landscape where multiple regions rise, while the United States continues to lead in key areas. The American economy remains one of the most dynamic in the world. Its technology sector continues to shape global standards, and its ability to generate new ideas at scale keeps it ahead of emerging competitors. AI research, advanced chips, biotechnology, and clean energy innovation are driven largely by American companies and the startups that surround them. These firms operate in an environment that rewards experimentation and adapts quickly when new opportunities appear. Capital flows confirm this resilience. Global investors still place a significant share of their money in the United States because its financial markets are deep, transparent, and flexible. Even during periods of uncertainty, more international funds enter the country than leave it, showing confidence in its long-term stability and potential for growth. The business environment adds another advantage. Companies operating in the United States benefit from a wide talent pool, strong infrastructure in research and development, and a culture that supports rapid scaling. This combination allows American firms to compete effectively even as global competition intensifies. These strengths show why the United States continues to play a central role in shaping the economic direction of the world. And they point toward a bigger question about what this new era means for American households and the life they will experience in the years ahead. As the global system shifts, the effects are beginning to appear not just in national statistics, but in the routines, expectations, and financial decisions of households across the country. Price movements will feel less predictable than in the past. Goods that once stayed stable for long periods may rise or fall more quickly as global competition shapes the cost of materials and production. Supply chains that span multiple regions will create more frequent changes in stock levels, delivery times, and product availability, making everyday purchases more sensitive to outside conditions. Technology will advance at a faster pace, and this acceleration will influence the job market. Some roles will disappear as automation becomes more common, while new positions emerge in areas like AI development, advanced manufacturing, clean energy, and data-driven services. Workers will face a future where learning new skills becomes essential rather than optional. Income and employment will also be shaped by competition among global firms. Wages may grow in sectors with strong demand, while other industries face slower progress. Investment choices will reflect the same pattern as people decide where to place their savings in an economy where innovation creates opportunity, but also increases volatility. At the same time, this era brings real advantages. Breakthroughs in technology can raise productivity and lower long-term costs. New industries can offer stronger career paths and more flexible ways to work. Cities and regions that attract investment may experience faster development and create opportunities that did not exist a decade ago. This is why the post-American era cannot be understood as a purely political shift. It is a transformation that reaches directly into the daily economy of the United States and shapes how much people pay, how they work, and how they plan for the future. It is a period defined by uncertainty and opportunity moving together, and it is already reshaping the lives of millions.